right, here we go. We're going to land the plane here in our series, If You Know, You Know. Last week, we talked about how failure is never fatal unless you choose that it's final. And I want to build on that today and say this, that when Jesus sees you and I, he doesn't see us based upon our past. He only speaks to us based upon our potential. The character we've been referencing throughout this series has been Peter, one of Jesus' disciples. And we see that like Peter goes through a season of life where he denies Jesus 3 times. He's got issues with his verbal responses. He can sometimes become emotionally unstable. He cuts a man's ear off at one point. Jesus is like, calm down, man, and puts it back on for him. Like Peter understands what it's like to just have a lot of mess ups, a lot of failures, a lot of moments where his past can hold him as a prisoner. But when Peter denies Jesus 3 times before Jesus is crucified, and Peter's now rattled with guilt and shame, disappointment and despair because of the choices that he made in that moment. Jesus doesn't ever engage Peter based upon his past. In John 21, he actually asks Peter 3 times the same question. He says, hey, Peter, do you love me? Yes, Lord, Peter says, feed my sheep. Hey, Peter, do you love me? Well, yes, Lord, feed my sheep. Hey, Peter, do you love me? Yes, Lord. Feed my sheep. Notice Jesus doesn't even engage with his past because he already knows what it is. And oftentimes this is where you and I get hung up, is that we're so perplexed and paralyzed by our past that we don't take the next right step to move the story forward. But look at how Jesus sees Peter, which is the same way that Jesus sees us. He goes, look, I know what you've done, but I'm not going to hold you captive by what you've done. I'm only going to speak to you based upon how I've wired and created you, the potential that I've put, the purpose that I've put on the inside of you. So, hey, whether you failed in a relationship, whether you've failed with crossing boundaries that you said you'd never cross, maybe you failed in standing up for what you knew was right when you saw that one kid getting bullied in the cafeteria. Or maybe you lied to your parents. Now you got to go back and ask for forgiveness. Maybe you mistreated your sibling. I don't know where this fits for you, but I do know that it fits for all of us in one way, shape, or form. But know that when Jesus sees you, he doesn't see you based upon your past. He's only going to speak to you based upon your purpose and your potential. So what's one thing? Just one. You can make a list if you want to, but I just want you to identify what is one thing about your past that you're like, I can't look beyond it, I can't get over it, and I don't know if God can accept me because of it. What is one thing? Write it down, identify it, and then go, God, how do you see me? What's the purpose that you're giving me? For some, it's just simply asking for forgiveness and then moving on. For some, it's having the courage to start that small group at your school. For some, it's just the courage to honor your parents even when you disagree with them. But just know, it's time for you to step into your purpose because Jesus never sees you based upon your past. He only speaks to you based upon your purpose. If you know,